Hi everybody. So we've had our full moon and it was in Aries, so it's been particularly hard for those of us who have Aries in our charts, predominantly, such as myself, moon in Aries. It's all about being your true self, who you really are. Just a second. Oh, I always do this. Yes, I'm getting there slowly, cutting down again. I'm doing exactly what I did the last time and it seems to be working, so good. So basically, being true to ourselves in this world is really hard because we're taught to be the opposite. We're taught to be lackeys and doormats, and to blindside ourselves and to not even be self-aware at all of what you're really feeling, what you really want, what you really don't want. I just read a post on Facebook which just infuriated me. It was from somebody who is, religious. They're a relative, and they're good people, and they mean well, but they're completely wrong. It was basically saying that we should be kind and be good to everybody, regardless of how they treat us. And I couldn't not disagree more, because at the end of the day, you may as well just paint a bullseye on yourself and invite all the narcissists and all the sociopaths to come along and take you for the proverbial ride. And they will, believe me, if you have that attitude. I believe in kindness, and I believe in being the best that we can be. And if I see somebody in need and whatnot, and if I can help, I will do so. But I will not be a doormat to be used and abused by people. That's not my purpose here. None of us are here for that reason. Yet a lot of people seem to think that is the case. We all have trouble with boundaries as empaths, haven't we? We have porous boundaries, or some of us have no boundaries at all. And I think that's a big problem. People pleasing, I'm aware of the fact that people are all afraid of each other. They worry about how other people will react to them, how people will see them, or how people may retaliate if they do something or don't do something. It's a perpetual downward cycle in society that, again, is really encouraged, because if everybody is constantly afraid, nobody's going to really be true to themselves. They're going to do things to be safe, they're going to do things to fit in, they're going to do things to get validation, to feel better about themselves. God, there's probably like 1,000 reasons why people just don't live authentically. And it's something that can only be achieved over time. It's something we need to relearn to do. It's as simple as that, really. It starts with, and I've said this before, going within. We have to learn to really tune in and listen to ourselves. I do that, but I still find it really hard as well, and I get it wrong, and I don't always have the right boundaries either. I still feel afraid of people and how they may react, and there's loads of issues and nuances to true authentic selfhood and honouring ourselves, and I think all of that will have come up through the last full moon, and Mercury going retrograde is going to bring that up even more, especially if we're going into Scorpio season. It's going to get really intense, because Scorpio is all about, it's the shadow, really. It's shadow terrain. Now, we can moan and whine all we like about the world around us, right? Which we know damn well is not a pleasant place at all. we talk a lot about NPCs, we talk a lot about things happening to us and so forth and so on, but if we remain in the victimhood mindset, then we will not fulfill our purpose. We can't be that way, because we're powerless. Then we accept, or well, no, we don't accept, we basically state that, oh, I'm powerless and there's nothing I can do, everybody's doing it to me, and so forth and so on. And I don't really believe that. I think that we have, at the very least, an influence on our environment, and the choices that we make and the consciousness that we hold is very much a part of that. To recover our consciousness, to heal our consciousness, and to hold more light and strength and courage and fearlessness is, well, it's very important. The way to do it is to go within again and again and again, and to tune in. How am I feeling? If something happens with a person, or something you see, or something you hear, or an event, whatever it might be, before you react, stop and ask, what am I feeling? What is this making me feel? Why do I feel this way? And just follow it back all the way within yourself. All the answers truly lie within us. I really do believe that. Because if we stay stuck in the trapped consciousness, then we'll stagnate there, and that's it. Nothing will happen after that. I mean, we can all go out and do this spot the NPC business, where, oh, that's an NPC, and oh, that's an NPC. But I say, yes, well, that may or may not be the case. Some people are so fast asleep that they may come across as NPCs, but are not. The thing is, why spend so much time worrying, agonizing about that? I say it's far more important to go within yourself and address your own feelings and your own mental processes, your own fears, your rage, your confusion, the feelings of being trapped. It is like a maze. It is like a maze. We're not really going to get anywhere by pointing fingers and blaming the out there. It is hard going. I do realize that, but the only way to deal with it is to be honest with yourself and take the power back. Take your power back. Walk away from people that make you feel miserable. When you sense that a relationship, whatever kind of relationship that might be, isn't going to go anywhere, and any amount of time that you spend with that person makes you feel utterly exhausted, angry and miserable, then it's time to walk away. I've had to do this God knows how many times. Literally, I had to do it. And I did. It was tough. It was very hard. Some of these people, yes, I did really care about them, but it was like a bottomless pit. It was never ever going to be all right. I wasn't going to get anywhere. They weren't going to get anywhere either. It was like, this is just sucking the life out of me, and I can't be bothered with this anymore. It's pointless, right? And you've got to acknowledge that and move on. It's important. We're here to do a job. So that job certainly consists of owning our own shit instead of blaming the out there for how we feel. Our feelings, our thoughts are our responsibility. They are showing us what's going on within us, and they are inviting us inwards to discover what's true and what's false within us, to regain our true self, because only our true self, free from all that programming and all that poison, has the power to do whatever it is we came here to do. I don't know if we are going to reset something or get out of here, or I'm not sure about that yet. But what I am really sure of is that we have the power to influence our environment. I know this because I've experienced it many times. And it's like a computer game. It's different layers. You have to work through the sludge and get through a barrier, and then there's always work to be done. And if you feel like shit, then go within, because there's work to be done. Don't blame the out there or the NPCs or whatever, because personally I don't feel in any way, shape or form that NPCs are out to get me. I don't experience that. I never really have. There are people who have it in for me or had it in for me, etc., and they may well be NPCs, but I deal with it as catalytic. I think about, okay, what's happening here? What does it mean? What is it trying to show me here? What's going on here? What is this about? How do I feel? How is this making me feel? What's this bringing up for me? And it always shows me, it's about clearing this out, or clearing that out, or alchemizing that. It's all about the inner landscape, ultimately. That needs to be addressed, cleared, healed, transformed, alchemized, whatever you want to call it, so that we more and more by degree step into our power, our true self, our true nature. And the more we do that, the more our perspective changes as well. That is what I find. I do see people stagnating on levels because there is a unwillingness or somehow a block or something, so that they can't seem to get through it, or they don't want to get through it. You know, we really do manage to get in our own ways more often than not. We are so programmed, and we don't always recognize the programs either. I know this is true, but I find if you're truly open to be shown the lessons, then they will show themselves to you, and you will understand, I understand why this happened. Yeah. You know, self-empowerment is about exactly that. It's taking your power back. Because we can, with help from spirit, call it what you will, we can be transformed, we can be made whole again. But if we are busy blaming everything out there, then we're giving our power away, because the out there has done this to us, but we're not owning it. What do you think the out there is going to fix it? It's not. You know, we know this. Doctors don't fix patients. People are not going to fix you. Doctors aren't going to fix you. The system isn't going to fix you. The world out there isn't going to do that. It is a mirror, you see, of where you're at, and it shows you what's happening. But if you're still in the blame game business and you're still feeling like a victim, then you're disempowering yourself. Basically, you basically believe that the world out there is out to get you, that it has the power to completely destroy you and to make you utterly miserable every day of your life, and that there's nothing you can do about it. Well, you can see where that would go, right? I need reminding of that as well. I have to remind myself of that again and again, and today wasn't a great day for me, and I felt pretty heavy. But then I remember that it's okay to feel those feelings, to allow them to be. And I asked, what is this about? Why do I feel like this? And it's showing me what's going on, where I've made choices that compromised me and my integrity, or where I still have issues with trust, you know, because you see, I have learned in my journey that shit happens for a reason, and that things tend to work out somehow, and there's always a valuable lesson which happens to then show me the way out of a certain level of my consciousness to a higher level, which is wider, more expensive, you know, as in with an A, not expensive as in money. It's about observation, and it's about learning that life is like a mirror, and whatever is happening in our life is showing us what is happening within us. We're not victims, but if we believe ourselves to be victims, then we're choosing disempowerment. It isn't an easy thing. I mean, again, I say, why would anybody expect it to be easy, you know? But if we want to believe that we can fulfill our purpose and our destiny here, if we want to do that, if that is, you know, what we truly desire, then we need to start taking responsibility for our own consciousness. And we need to start listening to ourselves and listening to that depression or that anxiety or that rage or that hatred. I mean, NPCs, you know, NPCs, yeah, they're everywhere, but you know, so what? Let them be. Why waste so much time thinking about that? Is that an NPC or not? Is he an NPC or not? It doesn't matter. If you're having a relationship with somebody that is making you miserable, where you're not getting any resonance at all, then call it a day and walk away from it. As far as just people out there who walk by you in the street or having a conversation, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're not interacting with them, and it's to me, it seems utterly irrelevant, right? Whether they're NPCs or not, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to spend my time thinking about that. I'd much rather take my power back and think about my consciousness and my state of being and regaining my true self and a clear perspective on exactly what it is I'm here to do. And I think, I've said this before, I think that by doing that, we are fulfilling our purpose, because that is part of our journey here. Because you cannot enter heaven with the consciousness of hell. You cannot. And if you allow your shadow to be in control, and thereby, in a sense, you hate yourself because you hate your shadow and you're repressing it and you're pushing it down, and you're not allowing it to speak to you. See, we all have problems with our masculine side. Most of us do. Our masculine side is very harsh, it's very judgmental, it's very angry, and it's the part of us that we use to navigate our way in this world. So when we get it wrong, we beat ourselves up mercilessly, or there's loads of different angles to that. So we are taught to be that way, right? Especially if our parents were overly draconian. Especially religious parents would have been that way. So we get taught this is bad, feeling that way is bad, thinking that way is bad, doing that is bad, it means you're bad. So all of that stuff gets repressed, but it's there, it's in the pressure cooker. And from behind the conscious perception, it influences you, me, all of us, but not in a good way, right? So it has to be addressed, and it can only be done with compassion, because you see, it's that part of you that's trying to help you get through life, but it has become like, well, the enemy within, but it isn't trying to be the enemy. It's just that is how you were taught to think. It's all done on purpose, of course. It keeps us trapped, you see. It keeps us from becoming our true self. It it's always there, our true self, but I mean regaining it rather, right? So I think at the moment there is a shift in this terrain with regards to our inner masculine, our navigator, our inner navigator. It's meant to be supportive. It's meant to be supportive of our intuition, you know, our feminine principle, which is love, compassion, intuition. Ah, yes. And intuition will always tell you when you're hanging out with the wrong type of people. It will say to you, this feels all wrong, get away. But if you have the male principle going, you shouldn't think like that, you're a bad person, you can't walk away from these people, they're your family, that makes you a bad person, then you're gonna stick in a bad situation. Your negative, your masculine and your feminine are basically at war, you know, and so that is the greatest healing in a sense. It's the reunification of the masculine and the feminine principle within us to work together, to reach consensus, as it were, right? And this is, it's not, because it has so many elements and aspects and nuances to that, the recovery of the masculine principle within us requires a state of non-judgment. You need to see it and understand why it thinks like that, why it beats itself up, why it feels like a bad person for doing things that are necessary, for doing things that are guided by the intuition, for walking away from a bad situation or a person that isn't good for you or whatever that might be. Guilt plays a big role, shame plays a big role, or feeling that somehow you are responsible for everything. You have to fix this and you have to fix that and you have to be good and kind to everybody, otherwise you're a bad person, that sort of stuff. So you keep going around in circles, doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Of course, that's not going to happen, is it? It's a trap. There's so many different traps. It is very nebulous. Scorpio is very nebulous. It's all about shadow work. So as we're heading into November, more and more of that will come up. And we have two choices. We can be with that, with those feelings, rather than reacting, not feeling that, oh, you feel something, but it's not really conscious and it's rejected and pushed down, and you're off doing, fixing, getting validation and doing the right thing, which isn't the right thing, you know, and then wondering why you feel like shit. But you feel like shit because your masculine principle is dysfunctional and is trying to keep you safe and protect you by telling you to do all these things that are really not good for you at all. It's not doing that because it's evil, because it hates you. It's doing that because that is what it was taught to do. If your parents were like that, your masculine principle will be that. It'll behave that way. It took me many years to figure that out. I mean, my masculine principle was basically like my mother, which is a bit of a paradox, but there you go. And this world, I see it everywhere. You know, a child gets something wrong and it's bludgeoned mercilessly and told that it's a bad person. The child does something really good and it gets absolutely no recognition. That sort of behavior, or, you know, in religious households where it's all about God and you're a sinner and no matter what you do, you'll always be a sinner. You need some guy to die on a cross in agony so that you may at some point be free, but no matter what you do, you're always a sinner. You know, it seems to me that whatever Jesus went through, it was all kind of a bit of a waste of time, because we're all sinners here and continue to be so regardless. You know, it's complete bullshit. need to learn from the mistakes that we make. So getting it wrong isn't a terrible upheaval, but of course the fear comes in of, I'm always going to get it wrong. I'm never going to be all right. I'm doomed. I'm screwed because I'm such a mess, because I'm just so shit and I'm just not good enough and I'm never going to be good enough and blah and blah and blah and blah. That again is the masculine principle trying, believe it or not, to help you and protect you through life. Because somehow it thinks, oh, that is the way to stop you from doing that again. That is the way to stop you from making another mistake. But actually, it does the opposite. It reinforces all that behavior. So you've got to recognize that voice and say, I know you're trying to help me, but this isn't the way to do it. The way to do it is to understand that, yes, okay, these patterns of behavior I'm seeing here that are making me miserable, it's almost like an addiction. I do it because I expect that it will make me feel better, but then inevitably it makes me feel like shit. So I need to stop doing that, but that may not happen overnight. So little by little, at least now, I have that awareness that I'm doing this, that I'm following these routines, that I'm making these choices. So, and then start changing little by little. Just do what you can do. That's all. Baby steps. And give yourself a lot of praise and a big pat on the back or whatever for every little victory that you get. Support yourself and have compassion for yourself. Yes? And these feelings of, I'm never going to be all right, I'm just a mess, and oh my god, everything is shit, and they're all NPCs, and this world is going to shit, and oh my god, there's nothing I can do, and panic, rage, fury, all of that. When you start making choices that benefit you, choices that honor you, choices that strengthen you, that show you that you're perfectly capable, and when you stop beating yourself up over perceived mistakes and instead realize, okay, I did it again, but you know what, that's all right, because your awareness is growing, and by the by you'll get it right. You really will. It just takes time, you see. And keep understanding that this masculine principle is just dysfunctional. It isn't evil, it isn't bad, and it isn't psychic attack. It is a part of you. So learn to integrate it. Learn to understand and speak to it. I do. I say, hey man, I understand. You're trying to help me, but this is not working. This is actually reinforcing the negative choices, the bad behavior, the this, the that, and the whatnot, right? So, why don't we work together? And I know people will think, when you speak that way, people will think that you've got multiple personality disorder, but fuck that, who cares, right? It doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is that we thrive. What matters is our freedom. And our freedom and our liberation, and thus the freedom and the liberation of this world possibly, depends on inside, within us. That's where it's all at. We are reality generators. I really do believe that. But we're still in the great clean-up operation here, and so that work has to continue. And it comes with a great deal of feeling really uncomfortable. It does do that. Because facing the shadow and learning to accept ourselves as, well, I was going to say imperfect, but that isn't really the right word, because of course that is a word that's very much used in society to make us feel shit about ourselves. But learning to accept ourselves as dual beings for the time being, because we do make mistakes, we do get it wrong, but that is how we learn, you see? And by accepting that, I think, we get on track with it all. Yeah. We've lived here in this realm. We've been here for a long time, and it takes time to get it out of our veins. it takes time to purge it out. It takes time to heal. That doesn't happen overnight. And it requires courage, and it requires a great deal of compassion, people. So give yourself that. That is self-love. You know, and instead of focusing so much outwards, I'm not saying we shouldn't be aware of what's happening in the world, of course. That is not what I'm saying at all. We notice, we see, we get it, and it is harrowing. But we do not have to give it our power. It happens, of course. I do too. I get very upset about it, okay? But then I have to draw myself back from that and say, hold on, stop. Okay, I don't want it to swallow me. No, I'm here to let it, to utilize it. Yes, to utilize everything, because it feels very important, because everything that happens for a reason. It's there to show us something about ourselves. If we use it like that, approach it like that, we make headway with regard to our consciousness, and we don't stagnate, but we progress through the levels, through the barriers. I cannot tell anyone how exactly to do that. There's loads of people on YouTube who claim to know it, and they give us exact details as to how to do that, which I think is rather remiss, because we have our own way of doing this. Each and every person as an individual has his or her own way of doing shadow work, but it is powerful, good stuff. And it all begins here, in yourself, always. What's out there happens to show you the in there. That's really what I believe, because I've experienced that to be the case over and over again. It's going from powerless victim to powerful warrior of the light by degrees. Again, this does not happen overnight. It's the great work. It's a big thing. It takes great commitment. It takes taking no bullshit from yourself, you see, because we talk a lot about bullshit. This world is full of bullshit. This is why we are full of bullshit. Our mind is full of bullshit. It tells us so much crap. And if you really pay attention, you'll realize it's bullshit. It's programming, you see? The shadow part of our being is all that programming that has fragmented us, that has done things to undermine us. And only by looking at it honestly, all the time, in awareness, can we, alchemize that and heal ourselves and become whole again, bit by bit by bit by bit. It's like a salvage operation, I suppose. How else can I put it, really? It's a salvage operation, and you have to dive very, very deep for some parts of yourself. You do. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. Utilize it. Everything is utilized, or rather it can be. I find this to be the case. Everything is utilized. So I guess that's all for today. Toodaloo.